Welcome to Right
Fucking
Now with Karen and
with
John.
Karen and John. Yes.
We had the same
Echo.
thought at the same time. I wonder what Zoom will do with that. Hey, John,
Overload and
where are
explode.
you? Where are you?
I I am in Washington, D.C., although technically just over the border in Maryland, just finished up the Dr. Joe Advanced Follow-Up Retreat.
Ah, how was it? What'd you
It,
get?
it was magnificent. The theme was halos,
Mm.
and there were there was a new meditation idea thrown in surrounding the pineal gland and halos, which a lot of people seem to have really cool experiences from. So,
What
yes,
about you?
I took peace in the generous present moment away and loved it. It was
Yeah,
really cool to see old friends, repeat the experience, and just kind of revisit that home idea of what I'm doing in meditations every day to give it new meaning or renewed meaning, and just recognizing the sheer power in divesting focus out of the elements and circumstances of my current reality and then refocusing them through a new emotional lens on new preferred experiences.
that is very interesting. And I want to talk about almost the opposite of that for a little bit.
Yes. Jump us off today, Karen. I'm psyched to get into your topic, which is totally unknown to me.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. I believe I shared with you a month or so ago. I started reading this book called Existential Kink. And I love the title, of course. It's amazing.
Naturally.
And it's not just reading a book. So I actually got it on Audible and I'm like, well, this isn't going to work because there's tons of exercises in it. So I've gotten lots of books before, read them, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's nice. Oh, that makes so much sense, but I haven't done anything with it. This one is so very practical. And I'll just start with sharing. I've been working on my relationship with money, and it's absolutely fascinating to me. So, in the last like 5 or 6 weeks, I would say, my income has increased by 750%.
Boom.
Percent.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's definitely, I'm attributing it to the work I've been doing like every single day with this book. So one thing is really fascinating. The author is Carolyn Elliott, and she's talking about, you know, the manifestation people, like they want you to focus on your preferred emotion and the frequency that you want. But what happens with that is if that really worked, everybody would be freaking millionaires already. And she's a Jungian trained psychologist. And what she's saying is we get to actually go into the things that we say we don't want or that the ego doesn't want. So in my case, it was my bank account kept going up and down and up and down. And it was like so much contraction in my body that I kept saying, I don't like this. This sucks. Like it sucks being in this again. And I was experiencing a lot of shame and a lot of turmoil. And she has you identify, all right, what is it that you say you don't like? I'm like, I don't like my bank account going up and down and living in fear of running out of money and whatever else comes with it, right? So,
Yes.
okay, great. So, what feelings, like emotions, come up from that? Oh, shame, guilt, sadness, hopelessness, what all the feelings, right? Well, here's the one of the interesting things. Okay, what bodily sensations come up? So I like started really paying attention, like, okay, when I'm in this, when I'm looking at my bank account, what do I feel in my body? Well, well, shockingly, some of the same damn things as I feel when I'm sexually turned on. I'm like, what the
Hmm.
F? Seriously, like that excitement, that thrill of not knowing what's going to happen next, like, oh, am I going to pull it out, like, oh, where's the money going to come from, like, okay. And to be graphic, because why not,
Yes.
this is
Because
right
why
for
not?
me now. So one of the things that turns me on sexually is not knowing what's coming next. So if somebody keeps doing the same thing over and over, I'm like, okay, yawn, whatever. But if they switch it up and I don't know what's going to happen next, that drives me crazy, like in a good way, right? I'm
Yeah.
so turned on by
Yes.
that. The bank account, not knowing where money's going to come from as an entrepreneur, um, the up and down of it, it's almost like a roller coaster, but it's the same damn thrill as I get sexually. So I've been creating that in order to feel that turned on sensation. It's a totally fucked
Mm.
up way to do it, but I've been creating it. So when I could really dive into the shame and the juiciness and really allow myself to get fully turned on sexually by it,
Yes.
like it's transformed my relationship with money, with all the things that I thought were unpreferred or non-preferred, all of that, it's lost its power over me. And now I'm like, just, oh, well, why don't I do this in my business and just like make this offer instead of this one? And just boom. Like seeing opportunities that I never saw before. And trust me, I've been doing the work, right? All the positive stuff, all the Dr. Joe meditations, all that stuff for many years. And nothing's
Yeah.
had this profound of an impact in such a short time.
That
And
sounds really cool. And
one more thing, like I got a client, a brand new client that paid me in full for 3 months of coaching who found me. I did nothing. I did nothing to like market to him or to attract him in any way. Like he just found me. And
yes.
I usually don't accept friend requests from guys unless I know them on Facebook. And I'm like, my intuition's like, this one's okay. So I accepted him. And then he messaged me on Facebook and I'm like, okay, this is weird, right? And he's like, I've been watching your YouTube stuff. I'm getting a lot out of it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, let me know if I can support you. And he's like, I do need to talk to somebody. I'm like, well, okay, let's see. I mean, I was skeptical, but I think that was good because I wasn't attached. But he was, I
Yes.
mean, I could definitely support him, and I made him an offer, and he said yes and gave me his credit card. One call in
Fucking awesome.
a couple days, like just the whole thing was done.
Yeah. That's cool. And I see that as a very big example of choosing maybe the unknown. Like in the past, you're like, oh, Facebook requests from random guys go this way. You know what? I'm going to take a risk and go into the unknown. Like I'm going to do something I normally don't do. And I have a new frame of mind and I'm surrendering to the unknown and see what happens. Can you give more details? I'm curious to like flesh out a little more. You realized that there was an excitement in the up and down and you kind of leaned into and embraced in being like, oh God, yeah, I like was loving and maybe arguably love the exhilaration of an up and down roller coaster ride, or what was the
Yeah. And
yeah.
even allowing yourself to get turned on, like to experience fully your kinky, fucked up pleasure in whatever it is you say you don't want. So for me, it was like the shame of this, roller coaster in my bank account. I would say, you ask me, do I like it? I'm like, of course not. Like, what are you, crazy? Well, no, I'm the crazy one. So
Mm,
part of the work is actually allowing yourself to experience the pleasure and just kind of stop shaming the whatever, in my case, shaming the shame, stop judging it
yes.
weird or wrong, or and just embracing it like, yep, I'm kinky, I get turned on by shame. Like, okay, so what? And then it loses its kick. Like, I don't need it from that source anymore because I stopped resisting, because resistance is futile, right? What you resist persists.
Yes.
And so just by bringing it in, which is something I've done for a long time, is like allowing things, practicing allowance, but this is different. Like I seriously allowed myself to get sexually turned on by this. Like where I'm like I could feel sensations down there.
Huh. That's almost like I've heard of the philosophy or idea of sex magic to some extent, and I've heard several different interpretations or perceptions associated with that overall idea of like leveraging sexual excitement for intentional creation. And I'm not really that well read or knowledgeable on that topic, but it seems almost like the general gist of it is maybe applying in this element, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And then another thing, so that's like she calls that the EK process. Another thing that I started doing is a partner exercise, and it's called Deepest Fear Inventory. And I think it's a combination of 12 step, because she was in 12 step. And then also it comes from Marianne Williamson's, was it Return to Love? You know that poem or whatever she has, like our deepest fear isn't that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. So
Yes.
you write this letter, dear God, source, whatever, I absolutely refuse. So mine was to generate $30,000 this quarter. And then you write, because I have deep fear that. And then you write all these like 20 things that you have deep fear about. And then you say a prayer like, please remove these fears from me. And you do that with a partner. So I have a partner, and we would just leave voice messages, and our fears were almost identical. I'm like, oh, I'm not a unique snowflake. So that was one part of it.
Mm.
But after a week or two, we started to laugh as we were reading them because they're comical. After you say them enough times, you're like, this is so ridiculous. Like, it's impossible that I'm not worthy of it. It's impossible that I'm not going to provide value. I mean, look at my history. Just seeing how ridiculous it all was. But when that happens and you turn it around to the positive, like, because I have deep fear that I will be a well-known, sought after public speaker who gets paid like tens of thousands of dollars per talk. Oh, okay. So you turn it around to like the positives, and those got me really juiced.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by that. And I'm hearing Bashar so clearly, who always says when you identify the core underlying belief that's limiting yourself, it's going to start to appear nonsensical. And he goes, that's how you know you've found the core belief. You may find some of these layered beliefs on top, but continue behaving the same way, which shows you haven't found the belief. Once you see the belief and realize the absurdity of it, you found the core belief, and based on the income change and other experiences you're having, you found some really core beliefs and transmuted them, and that's exhilarating.
I know. Yeah, it is. It's exactly like that. And I love how all things are connected. And for me, this was just another piece in the puzzle. And I think a big one that I had been missing. Um, yeah, so I'm really excited about this. I'm really jazzed. I'm telling everybody about this book. Go get it, but do the work.
Yes,
Don't leave it on a shelf. It
yes,
won't do you much good.
yes, that's such a beautiful sentiment. Do the work. We've mentioned this before, and the Dr. Joe retreat was really focused on that, and everything is Neville Goddard. Everyone's like, you can learn this stuff till the cows come home for lifetimes and lifetimes, but until you actually do the processes of what seem most exciting for you and seem like they're going to work best for you, you're not really doing anything at all. And
Yeah.
I was just talking today about the idea of creating like the phrase happy hour was coming to mind, dedicating an intentional hour a day towards actionable processes of belief transmutation, self transmutation. Meditations, for some reason, maybe because I do them every day, they don't seem as unique, but more like actionable processes. Like I'm sitting with pen and paper and actually writing down great fears, like you're saying, and transmuting them, or doing like Abraham says, focus wheels, like actually putting pen to paper and taking that action on some of these processes. Meditation is obviously a process in and of itself, but it's more of a passive one versus an active one. I'm inspired. I'm going to check out this book.
Oh, it's super cool. I love that happy hour. I love it, John. That's
I
so
was
cool.
thinking of different phrases that had like rhymes or alliteration with hour, because that seemed like a reasonable chunk of time. If you think of any, or please submit in comments if any of you listeners have ideas.
Hour, I've heard.
Power hour, yes. Yeah, that has a good alliteration.
Yeah, that's already been taken. Not that we
Eh,
need to be
we,
unique, but flower
we could
hour.
reappropriate. Flower hour. Oh, flower hour. Yes. I'm blooming like a flower. I love it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So yeah, it's just fascinating to me how quickly things can turn around. And so if you've been doing all the positive stuff and not seeing the changes, like why not try this? She definitely uses the F word a lot. So if you're offended by that, hopefully you're not watching this show.
Probably not. You probably stopped listening to us within the first few minutes.
Yeah, since it's in the title.
Yes.
But so fun. So what else is exciting right now, John?
What else is exciting? Life. I'm heading to an Abraham cruise next week.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, getting some more time with
Only your
Abraham.
first one in July.
Yes, yes. It's such a different energy than Dr. Joe. Abraham is so gentle and motherly versus Joe's like doing the work. Are you doing the work? Some days we were going probably like 12, 14 hours, not continuously with meditations, but alternating the learning with the meditations. One thing that really stuck out from this retreat to me was the idea of possibility. And I know we did past episodes on that, but hearing stories of transformation on video and from people in the audience. There was one attendee who came up with his mother who was involved in like a serious car accident and was had paralysis in half his body and this and that, and was telling his story by doing the work, doing the meditations, changing the focus, wound up regaining very large percentage of functionality within his body again. And he was sharing some really cool visualization techniques that he was using in his meditations. Like he had an issue with his eyes kind of being like cross-eyed or having some vision issue. And he was saying in his meditations, as a symbol, he was visualizing the optic nerve in his brain as kind of being dirty. And he's like, he would go in there for a period of time during his meditations and imagine like ever so gently polishing the optic nerve and seeing it shine back at him. And then he said all of a sudden one day in meditations, he felt this click in the back of his head. He said it wasn't like a pain, but it was like a noticeable physical like pop in the back of his head. And all of a sudden he like regained perfect vision. And the timing was perfect because he was meeting with, I guess it was one of his therapists right before, or I guess right after, or right at the time of it. And he's like, I can read that sign over there. And she's like, no, you can't. And he's like, yes, I can. And he read it. And she was like, what just happened? And he's like, this is what I was doing. So that really inspired him. And then he started working on the paralysis and he was envisioning, I think he was saying, almost like a little like computer chip and little cables, like replugging in cables during his meditation each time and regaining more and more functionality. And it happened. And enough stories like that make you really start to believe in possibilities. And some people may shut it down by saying, oh, it's completely impossible. But if you believe there's like a 1% possibility that it's possible for stuff like that to happen, you're really opening the door for yourself for anything. And you realize if you can be paralyzed and regain control of half of your body, full control, then like stuff like I want to regrow hair, correct my eyesight, or do this or do that. Like it seems like child's play compared to some of these really large limitations that people come back from. And it is so exhilarating and so uplifting to hear all these stories of possibility.
Ah, I love all of those. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Love that visualization too. I don't consider myself to be very visual, but yet, if I'm in session with people and I'm channeling, I get visions of things for others. So I get to do that for myself, but I love that, polishing the optic nerve. I could work on that.
Yeah.
Right now
Bashar mentioned,
I was gonna say I'm double the legal limit for blindness without my
huh,
contacts.
huh,
Yeah, I'm like minus
wow,
10. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's Coke bottles.
huh,
Uh-huh.
huh,
And I haven't
huh.
worked on it.
Yeah, it must be possible. I was looking years ago and I, without much focus, corrected my own eyesight. But there was a period of time I was looking at programs before I even knew of any of this stuff. I got curious because my eyesight was deteriorating a little, and I found some program with like a tape. I don't remember what year this
A
was,
tape?
and a thing they called, yeah, like a cassette tape. I like put on my Walkman, my headphones, and was listening. But I remember the technique, they called it like the fusion string, and you like had this string with little beads tied in it, and you would like stick it to the wall and focus your eyes on each bead. And now through Bashar, I recognize it was just a permission slip like anything else. There were people who had testimonials like, this worked for me, use this fusion string. And I remember doing it and practicing with it. And then my eyes just corrected themselves. I passed the vision test without needing my glasses. And I was like, oh, I guess they work back. So yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. You realize if people can cure from paralysis or regrow a thyroid like we saw in the Source movie,
Right.
then correcting eye vision should be totally doable.
Oh my gosh, totally. I know it seems so small compared to the other things, right?
Yeah,
It
it's all
does.
possibility.
I know. I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
So, oh gosh, this is so exciting. So, what are you going to play with? Creating.
Mm. I was more excited in this retreat in recognizing the power in divesting my focus from current circumstances. And
Mm,
Dr. Joe loves to talk about the unknown and that trusting the unknown and how much potential is in the unknown. So simply by divesting your attention in known circumstances through meditation, continuously coming back to the void, back to the void, back to the void, no matter how many times the mind wanders away, you're inherently removing focus from circumstances. And if you do that long enough, sooner or later, some new circumstances have to come to present themselves to fill in the circumstances that you're no longer paying attention to. So it's just fascinating and curious. I'm exhilarated to see what happens just by playing around with this stuff, right? Like we've all played around with material things and focusing in on ideas and researching ideas and writing papers and weighing pros and cons and going about it that way, like matter to matter. It's so exciting and interesting to say, even if it's all bullshit, which we know it's not because there's so many stories, but what would happen if you tried to create quantum or field or awareness to matter instead of matter to matter,
mm,
and considering life just a grand experiment in that.
yeah. Ugh. I know it's so fun to play with. And for me, I think it's really important to actually choose a focus. Like, what do I want to play in? What do I want to feel is the big thing. And one thing that came up today with a client actually was like playful curiosity. It was for her. But I think, whatever channels through me is not just for the person, it's probably for me too. So playful
Yes.
curiosity.
Yeah, that's a beautiful idea. And picking more of a general topic rather than something super specific. Um, I like Bashar's idea that specific visions are there to represent an emotional state of being or an overall state of being, but not so much a specific item. Right? You see like a private jet, and you're like, "Ooh, the private jet's supposed to be what I'm supposed to get. That's what I'm dreaming of. That's what I'm going for." And he's like, "Yes, sometimes, but really." What's the feeling behind that? And with like a private jet, you'd be like, oh, freedom, oh, abundance, the capacity to go anywhere I want to, whenever I want to go there effortlessly with no weight. And you're like, oh, I get it now. It's that feeling like playful curiosity, freedom, abundance that I'm excited to. And that symbol is just holding the place or showing me something that has that frequency, but it's not necessarily that item.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. We've talked about that before. And then once you get the feeling, you drop the symbol, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Awesome.
Sweet.
What else you got? You're like
What else?
you're done, aren't you?
I'm just like buzzing, buzzing, buzzing.
I
It's
know.
interesting. I'm holding like an emotional quality with very limited thoughts behind it. I'm just like, wow, everything is so easy and wonderful, just kind of in that like blissed out state with a hollow mind. There's like a tumbleweed going through, just laughing at
I'm
it.
gonna play a Western song. Well, we could just leave it, man, because I'm like vibing high. I'm feeling good. How you feeling?
Magnificent.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening to
Right
fucking
now.
baby.
Ice, ice, baby.
Oh, we didn't do any peace out things.
Oh yeah. The butter is like a butterfly.
Sure, it's a butterfly.
I
We
love it.
got to get an end screenshot if you're listening and say, what are they doing? All right, we'll see you next time.
Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.